You don't know who Fat Joe is?
I do know who Fat Joe is, but I just...
You said lean back twice. I made 3 Fat Joe references. Not one person got it. What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode number 10 of the Vision Cast. A very, very special episode. We have our new athlete, Toni Cassano. And we also have WWE's own Sonya Deville. So we are very, very excited to have them both on the podcast. And also, not to mention, the one, the only, Carolina. She is our social media athlete coordinator to kind of get things off and running. So from what I understand, Tom told me that you guys have a VMI shaker that just essentially was it your apartment that you found?
It appeared in my house, yeah.
It just magically appeared.
It magically appeared.
Magically delicious too.
That was good.
Yeah, hey, you like that? Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us on. The story goes, Toni was over my house and she was like, babe, why do you have a VMI shaker in your drawer? Because obviously you guys work with her and I didn't know of the brand till then, apparently. And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, oh my gosh, actually, it's a really random and funny story. Sammy's sweetheart from Jersey Shore's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend DM'd me randomly and was like, hey, do you want to try these amazing supplements? And he sent me, not like that. Yeah, just for the supplements, for the fitness. And sent me a box of like VMI stuff. And I actually really remember liking it. Really? And that was like years ago and I still have the shaker bottle.
Yeah.
And now, look, full circle.
I know. This
circle.
is
How
so
weird.
Nice. Everything goes full circle. This is great.
Well, welcome to the team, Toni.
Yeah. So how do you guys know each other?
So how do we know each other? Well, back in 2000, I think it was 18-ish.
Something around there, yeah.
Maybe late 17. When I first started competing in bodybuilding, I used to train with Toni back at like LA Fitness. I used to work at LA Fitness, and we had the same coach.
You could call him that for a little while.
But, so then we kind of just fell apart along the way, but like we've known each other since back in the day, like when I used to work there.
I had no idea you worked at LA Fitness.
And Vitamin Shop.
Woof.
Yeah.
I forgot she worked there too.
I worked everywhere.
Yeah.
A jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to train together like 3-4 times, 5 times a week.
It was intense.
Really?
With our coach.
Intense.
Yeah, he would just...
But you weren't training to compete yet? You were just training to train?
I was trying to compete. I started the prep with our coach and then changed my mind.
Life happened?
Yeah, life happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Competing is hard. It's
I mean, I wouldn't know. I'm deathly afraid of stepping on stage.
Just
I refuse
do it.
Fuck that shit. Anyway, no. I just to be honest, bodybuilding to me is. I think it's a great sport. It's just to me, it's not worth it. That's just my opinion. My best friend is a 8-time IFBB Pro champion. It's not worth it to me. That's just me. But
I like food too much. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, fuck that. I
Yeah.
want to have pizza. Like, I'm sorry.
I like pizza.
I know.
Guys, I'm so hungry.
It's her last week of prep, so this is the worst.
1 week out, she's on a podcast.
Yo, you're 1 week out?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, Saturday.
Wow.
So we're just starving over here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, starving life.
Just you. Yeah.
So what made you or kind of drove you to say, hey, like I'm gonna go through with this?
Yeah. So I always wanted to compete. Back, we're talking 6-7 years ago when we were training together. We were working with the same coach. My plan was to compete back then.
Yeah.
But life happens and it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of dedication. And I decided not to do it back then. A year and a half ago, I was like, you know what? This is my time now. I'm going to do it. It's something I always wanted to do, even if I only do it once, just to say I did it because it was a goal I had and I wanted to see it through.
Yeah.
I did it last year thinking it was just going to be like a one and done thing. I did really well. And that kind of like sparked it and motivated me to want to keep going. So this time around, my second year competing, and we're going.
Yeah.
We're going for it.
And are you enjoying that process? Or do you find that now it's your second time around? What adjustments have you made along that path to make it either easier for you, or do you think it's a little harder, or are there any expectations?
Okay, so on one hand, I think it's easier because I already knew what to expect. I knew how to prep my food and have it ready, and it doesn't like consume my entire life, and fit my cardio in and fit my training in without it really disrupting my life. On the other hand, it's harder, and we talk about this all the time. The fact that now that I did it once, the first time you do it, you don't expect anything.
Yeah.
No expectations. Second time around, I want to be better than I was last year. I'm comparing myself more. I have bigger goals, and I wanted to, you expect more out of yourself. So,
100%.
I think easier on one hand and harder on another.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that because I have a lot of, again, bodybuilder friends, but at least from what they've told me, and it's funny you say, like, the first show that you go into that you have zero expectation. I have an athletic background, and to me, like, anytime I do anything, like, I'm if it's competitive or if there's a win-lose situation, like, I'm not losing. I'm gonna kick the shit out of you. That's just my headset in anything that I do. So, like, I find it, like, honestly humbling, like, on your part, going into a sport and, like, for you to go into your first competition and say, like, you know what, like, kind of like I have to earn my stripes here. Like, I have no expectation. That's kudos to you. I don't know if that was your same headset, because everyone's wired differently. Like, even if it's the first time I'm competing, I'm like, I'm gonna win the show. And I mean, I'm dead serious. So, like, I mean, that's probably a fault on my part. Like, I probably think I'm better than I actually am.
No, that's a good thing.
You get my point.
Confidence.
Like,
I like it.
But that's a kudos to you.
Confidence.
Did you have that same headset, or was that more of like something that's earned?
I guess every show that I went into, I went in, like, I knew what I brought to the table. I knew there were certain aspects, like, that my physique brought to the table. You remember me. Like, I came in peeled, like, super, super lean every single time. And I knew that's what I always had going for me. But in terms of, like, how do I explain it?
Placement?
I never, placement-wise, like, I never expected to be top or to win an overall. I would be fine coming home with a second. I knew I would come in at least top 2 because I knew there were certain criteria that judges looked for, and I knew that's what I brought to the table. But I always knew that I lacked size. I knew my flaws, and, like, even though I worked for them, I don't know. I went in not really expecting anything, and every single time I came out of a show, I did fine. And the last show that I did, it was Miami Nationals. So the year before that, or 2 years before that, because I think it was COVID, I placed top 4. And so my expectations for myself, I set at least top 4. When I went into that show and there was an entirely different, like, level of competition, I got knocked down to 16th place. So for me, like, mentally, it messed me up. And I looked better than I ever been. The leanest that I ever was. I put on size. I did everything that I had to do. And it knocked me down all the way down to the 16th place. So for me, mentally, it was horrible.
Wow.
So my expectations for myself, I didn't know if I would beat anyone else, but being that, like, I went from top 4 to 16th. Yeah,
bit of a mindfuck.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
So I took a step back. I had a lot of other things going on in my life as well. And competing had to take a step back. Like, as you know, like, competing is a very selfish sport. You know, it's a lot. It's your meal prepping, your cardio. It's me. It's a lot.
Selfish.
Sorry.
So selfish.
So selfish. Well, I don't know. Maybe I need to, like, bring myself back down to earth in terms of my expectations of myself. But
just come back down.
Yeah, Jesus, down to earth.
We're all over here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, thanks. So I guess from what I've also heard from buddies of mine who are competitors, when you're doing your first show, it's kind of like, is there a thought process that goes through your brain of, like, oh, it's my first show, like, they're not gonna, like, place me or anything like that? Or is there any type of thought process like that?
So for me, I never even thought about the placing. I just couldn't believe that I made a freaking goal and I stuck to it and got to the show day.
Good for
like,
you.
I felt so good. And I think that confidence that brought on is what carried me through that first show. I got second in the open. And I think that's what it came down to, is just, you're not worried about, I wasn't worried about placing.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
I was just so proud of myself for
You did it for
setting
the
that goal.
experience, essentially.
I feel like
did do it.
I feel like you're, like, downplaying yourself a little bit, because Toni's, like, she's the most, like, humble human in the world, but her discipline, her consistency is, like, second to none. I fought MMA for 5 years. I've been in the WWE for 7.5. Like, I know what it takes to be kind of at that level of, like, pristine athlete, although it's not obviously in bodybuilding, but, like, I watch her work ethic and her consistency and her passion, and, like, there's no, like, oh, maybe a little cheat for Toni. Like, there's no cheating. She is, like, to the T on the book, like, always straight down the line, like making sure she's on point with her stuff. So I feel like she's a very like analytical thinker, and she just like has a goal, sets her mind to it, does it.
Yeah.
So I feel like for her, it's more of just like a black and white thing. I feel like this competition though is a little bit different. I feel like more of your emotions into it, because now you're starting to like fall in love with the sport and fall in love with the path that you're on.
Well, I also changed my entire life recently to fully revolve around this.
Yeah.
So I left my job, and I was just, this is my only focus now for my career, for my life. So the stakes, I guess, are a lot. It's not even the stakes, but
No,
the
you're
pressure,
right. The stakes are higher. Yeah.
the pressure is definitely a lot more, and you want to give it like your 100% the way you would give to any career.
And a phrase that I say all the time around the office is like, there's always things that people said that they should do, but your should really become a must. I say it around the office, you got to burn the boats at some point. If there is no option for you to go anywhere, do anything, zero excuse whatsoever,
100%.
once you burn the boats, like, your back's essentially against the wall. You have nowhere else to go, but you have to do this.
100%.
So I think that's the headset that you have now, which is awesome to see and hear.
Yeah.
So congratulations and kudos to you.
Thanks.
I hope you crush it.
You're so right though. Like when the stakes are high and there's no life raft to jump on, like this is the path and it's the only option. Your mindset changes and you start to develop a different kind of like, I got to do this.
I wanted to insert that Eminem lyric where it's like in the beginning of Lose Yourself when he's just
No, it's great though. It's true.
So
It's all or nothing.
I'm really curious.
It is really all or nothing. It's an all or nothing sport for sure.
So I'm really curious. You being in the WWE for 7 years now, congratulations. So how is it you guys kind of figuring out your schedule? Because with house shows and everything like that, I mean, trust me, like I have friends who have done indie wrestling and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge pro wrestling fan myself. But like, how do you figure all that out and have time to spend time with your loved ones? And I know there's I've watched every documentary you could fucking think of.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But like, it's all you hear is like that part of your life is sacrificed, and it's, you kind of miss out on a lot of shit. So how do you not to fucking dampen the room and get depressing, but like, how do you deal with that and make time for the things that are important to you?
Well, first I'll say, like, the second we met, it was like the first thing I told her. I was like, my schedule is insane, my job's insane, my life's insane. Are you sure you want to be a part of this? And she was like, yeah. And it was like a no-brainer from the beginning. Also, having a partner that's like like similarly minded in the sense of like, we're both super passionate, we're both very organized, we're both type A personalities. So like creating a schedule for us it comes down to a science. It's like, okay, these are my off days. I'm going to deviate my travel and fly to Jersey these days, Florida these days. And we literally just book it out and plan it out. It's cool because she gave up her 9 to 5 to focus on fitness full time. And we have a lot of opportunities together now to do things in the fitness world and stuff like that. So we've been working together a lot and been on the road traveling together a lot, because now that she doesn't work the 9 to 5, she can travel.
You have time, yeah.
Yeah. So we've kind of just made it work, and we're just kind of going with the flow. And my schedule is actually about to get a little crazier. We were just talking about it and how we're going to kind of handle it and work through it. Yeah.
I hear you.
But it's just nuts.
But we spend a lot more time together than I think a lot of people think.
Oh, because
we're really only apart.
And it's because you can travel with me a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like I'll have to go to LA in between WWE shows sometimes, and like she'll meet me in LA. Wow. And then she'll like come to my first show with me and then fly back home.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And then I'll like come back to her and then back to Florida.
We're always traveling.
We're always traveling.
Every week.
Yeah.
So here's my question. How do you find like time between all of that to like balance your training, your cardio, like finding a comfort? Like I know for me, when I compete, when I train, I need a home gym. I need my little home. I need my safe space. Like
We built her one.
We built one.
We built one.
We built one. No, honestly.
But we work out together. So it's like,
okay.
We do. She does cardio with me. When we were just in LA last week. We got up every morning and went to the gym first thing to get cardio done.
So like
literally,
my workouts are more like, it's whatever I want to do to feel good, right? Like I don't have a structured work. Hers are like, she has to count calories. She's down to the science. Like she has a coach. I just do whatever I like feels good. So when she's in prep, I just follow her workouts and we just train together. So if she's up to an hour and 45 minutes of cardio a day, I do an hour and 45 minutes of cardio a day. And I kind of just go with her prep.
Just like,
But the difference is
Do that to yourself.
because it's fun. Because like we'll just talk the whole time.
Yeah.
Like,
I
but
like that.
the difference is I get to eat whatever I want while I do that prep. So like,
Yeah.
it's like
I mean, it's give and
last
take.
night we were laying there. I was like so hungry and cranky, and she was like,
I just got Chick-fil-A. What do you want?
"No," she's like, "My pizza's stuck to the tinfoil. Can you get it off?" And like puts it in my lap, and I was like, "Yeah, I can lift your pizza off the tinfoil."
Well, she's like a really good cook, and she like force feeds me while she's in prep because she like wants to vicariously eat through me. So she's like,
I bake every day.
she's like, no,
to my boyfriend too.
I literally come home, like I'll land at the airport. She'll pick me up and she'll be like, I made you something, and I'm like, what? And she's like, banana bread with mini chocolate chip in them, and I'm like.
And like I brought it in the car for her. I'm like, here you go. The
I'm
second
like,
she
why are you
Eat it.
baking this stuff when you can't even eat it? And she's like, because it just makes me feel closer to food. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say.
As every bikini girl says, sniffs don't count.
Oh, I tell her to kiss
Yeah.
me
Oh,
when
she-
she
yeah,
eats
it's weird.
food. I'm like,
Super
just
weird.
kiss me so I can.
I'm judging
taste
you right
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's
you know.
okay. That's okay.
I'll like we were at the movies and I had like a Dr. Pepper and like popcorn and she's like, kiss me right now. Like
I'm
as
like,
I'm
just-
sipping my Dr. Pepper, she's like, kiss me right now. She's
Really?
like,
Dr.
what?
Pepper did it for you.
I'm like,
She-
rub the
yeah.
popcorn on your lips so they're extra salty, and then
She like wanted me to like mama bird, baby bird, I think.
listen.
It's the popcorn salt. That's what does it for me too. Don't worry. It's fine.
Popcorn salt. I mean, come
Popcorn
on.
salt. That gets me going every time.
Why
Yeah.
do you love him? He always smells like popcorn.
Yeah, every single time.
Popcorn's addicting.
Just riles me up, you know? Sorry. So to get into more your past and your history, so she gave me like a little tidbit of your background and your educational background, what you used to do. The title she gave me was so long, I'm not going to get into it, but I want you to kind of expound upon like what you used to do, why you did it, where you did it, and just give us a little 2 cents.
Are you referencing the lab that I
Yes,
worked at?
yes.
Okay. So I.
Coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
I read it. I was like,
So cool.
Yeah.
Pretty and smart.
When I met her and she told me what she did, I was like,
What?
it's really hot. Can you say that again?
It's like, oh, I play with placentas.
That was not the part that was hot, babe.
So I worked in a lab and we did 2 things. We did private storing of stem cells. So after somebody has a baby, if you want to save your stem cells, you would literally send us your placenta and your umbilical cord. And
That's a thing?
I would take the stem cells out. Yeah, and you can freeze them and use them later on in life if God forbid you ever needed them for something to heal your body. So we did that. And then we also, if you had a baby and you had a placenta and you wanted to donate it, we could make it into products. So if you get like gangrene in your foot or you're going to lose your foot from diabetes or something, they can actually use the stem cells therapy and they can inject them into your feet and it regrows.
Yeah, stem cells is like
Yeah.
crazy. Wow. It's
Some next level stuff.
My God.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
So like I actually heard a lot of, because again, not to go back to your career, but I've heard a lot of wrestlers, because of like the bumps they take on the mat and stuff like that, a lot of wrestlers have to get stem cells.
I was
in their
just
stomach.
telling
Talk
her
about
that.
this all
Yeah.
the time.
Because it's like everybody thinks WWE is just like, it's fake, but like, yo, you're taking a
No,
bump
they're
off a fucking
real
turnbuckle,
athletes.
jackass. Like, do you
She
realize how
just-
hard it actually is to
Yeah.
do? Like,
She was just nursing my wounds all week, so she knows how real it is.
She came home this week and she was like,
My back. I'm stiff.
That's
Yeah. But yeah, so it's definitely rough on your body, but stem cells is like something that's like becoming so much more mainstream now. Cause I didn't even know that it was a thing until like a couple years ago when the boys were talking about it at work. And I was like, wait, what? What does it do?
yeah.
So they actually, I heard this like really cool thing. I think I told you, but they like the whole vampire, you know, like a vampire lives forever because they suck new blood.
Yeah.
So stem cells is kind of that. Like you could almost preserve your body and heal it in ways that nothing else can by using the stem cells out
just
of the
regenerates
placenta.
everything.
Yeah. So actually, placenta stem cells are like universal. They can go into anybody.
So like, can it go into any body part too? So like, for instance, if like you had to cut my arm off.
Yes.
I'm not saying it'll grow my arm back, but you get my point. Like,
Yeah,
it can
it's
go
just
into
like
my
a little baby
Shut up.
arm.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it's like in
used,
Deadpool when he's like, touch my hand.
I love Deadpool.
It's used for so many like regenerative like issues you could have to heal them. But now they're even using it in your face. Like instead of getting like a Botox or fillers or something.
Is that what the vampire facial is?
No, but
I was gonna
No.
ask that question, like where they're covered in just
no, it's a
Blood,
little
yeah.
different. There's a product literally called Interfill, and it's used to inject into wounds to help them heal. But now, like these doctors started injecting into your face because without a wound being there, because it's literally like regrowing your cells in your face. Yeah.
really cool.
Wow. Yeah. So like I mean, I don't have an exactly exciting athletic career like you guys have. So like I played college baseball. So like this, I didn't have the same exact thing done per se. So like I had my sophomore year, I had what are called PRP injections.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they spin your blood, and then they separate the white blood cells from the red blood cells, and they inject it into your wherever area that's injured.
I've heard of that.
So I tore my triceps, and they injected that, and then that healed or whatever. But I had Tommy John surgery, so like they take out essentially your UCL. It's your ulnar collateral ligament within your elbow. So what happens is when you're throwing a baseball, like it's very unnatural. It's the most unnatural thing you could do in sports. So what happens is over time, wear and tear, it literally snaps. So you either have to take from your wrist or your knee. Long story short, scar right there. But anyway, I'm actually like genuinely curious. Like maybe I should have got stem cells in my elbow.
But like, how long ago was that?
Oh, almost like 8 years ago.
I feel like it wasn't even that like popular and prevalent back then,
Yeah.
right? It's like getting more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The PRP injections were awful, by the way. I had an awful doctor. Like the syringe was this long.
That's what I've
I can't
heard
do
about
needles.
them.
My mom came to the procedure with me, and my mom used to work at NYU, so like she gave blood and did all that stuff. So like she was like telling the doctor, "No, go this way," and this guy completely fucking shanked it, and I like he missed the part where he numbed my elbow.
Oh,
Blood everywhere. It was awful.
bloodbath.
Yeah. Are we all nauseous now?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I really like
She
it.
loves this stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Like the first week we were dating, she sent me a picture of something gross, and I was like, I don't even want to know what that is. But you forwarded it to my mom because my mom is a dental hygienist and loves gross stuff.
It was a placenta from twins. So it was one placenta with 2 cords. I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
I sent her a
Placentas
picture.
and salty lips.
Yeah. Her love language.
Wow.
Very creepy.
Jesus. That's very
The
interesting.
personality doesn't match the way I look.
Toni
Not
Cassano,
even-
everybody. Welcome to the show.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love.
But
So from a competing standpoint, I'm very curious. I know you said that, you're making the adjustments necessary. And what I like to talk about with people who compete is there's a lot of people, I don't want to get into like, oh, well, you got to work hard, no excuses, stuff like that. But like, what are your suggestions to people who, for instance, that aren't competing, that want to compete, that are either afraid to compete or they don't really know what to do? I'm curious what your advice is opposed to what all my other bodybuilder friends are. I'm curious if it's along the same line. Part of me feels like it's not going to be the same.
Okay, so my view on it, if you're thinking about competing and you financially can afford to, because that's a big stress
Number one.
that affects everybody. It's expensive and it's an expensive hobby, but go in, do it, because I think for your own confidence, for your life and building skills, it gives like so much value to your life just from going through it one time. It doesn't need to turn into a forever career. Your goal doesn't need to be number 1 at Olympia, but I think to do it for yourself and like the goals you can get out of that for yourself is totally worth it. Just go in and do it. If you can financially afford it, it's not going to add too much stress into your life. Don't let it come into your life as like a big, black cloud over your head. If you come into it with the right mindset, and get a coach and just do what your coach says. Trust the process. You're going to see results. There's 1,000 different ways to get there, but you're going to get results if you follow a plan and you stick to it. And the confidence it's going to give yourself from completing that goal is life-changing, and it's going to trickle and affect every other thing you do in your life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people also don't realize the financial obligation that comes along with that.
Yeah.
Because when people just go into competing, they're just like, oh, yeah, I'll just diet for 6 weeks and then I'll be stage ready. So I think there's a lot more that, just like anything else, there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to that. So I know you may have had some other questions. Or no?
they've been kind of covered. A lot of my questions really were like how you guys manage. We'll touch base on like the whole relationship aspect of it. Like I know I've struggled in the past. Like when I did compete, I've always been in a relationship, and it kind of we would butt heads. We're both always dieting and both always, granted, like you're not doing the whole competing and
Right.
you're the one putting up with it, not putting up with it, but like
Yes, putting up with it. Yep. Yes.
we get moody, we get hungry, we get angry. Like
What we talk about all the time, we tell people too, is like, well, first of all, Toni's like one of the most laid back people in the world, and like her like grumpy day is like most people on their best day. Like she's very mild tempered, and she's very easy to deal with, and because she's so disciplined and she loves what she does. And I think when you were talking about earlier, you were saying like, should someone get into this or shouldn't they? I think also something that helped you this year is like knowing what you want out of it. And I think everybody can want different things out of it, right? Like you could want it as a career path. You could want it to help brand you as a fitness model and get into influencing. You could want it to get to being Miss Olympia or whatever. Like everyone has different goals from it. And I feel like you can get into it. Just knowing what you want from it could be helpful in clarity of your path getting there. And I feel like that's what you kind of figured out this year, like what you wanted from it.
Yeah, because you get into a state, and I think that's when you get like the most cranky. Like, why am I doing this? And I ask myself that.
Yeah.
That's what you were
Do you
thinking
ever
about?
get to a point where do you ever get into like a fuck it mode where you're just like, fuck this, I'm not going to do this? Does that ever cross your mind or no? I'm curious. It does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 10 seconds.
With the pizza with the foil, I'm assuming that was one of those.
Yep. So literally last night we were laying on the couch and she's like, what's the matter? I was like, I'm really cranky. Yeah. I was like, I'm really hungry.
She was probably
and
super
I'm
nice
really
about it,
over it. I said it like that. I was like, I'm really cranky right now. Yeah. And I'm really over it. And I really just want to eat. I'm sick of being starving, to be honest. Yeah. But then, when you have clear defined goals of why you're doing it, it puts you back in check real quick. You're like, no, I'm doing it though for this reason.
Yeah.
When you don't have clear defined goals, and this goes for anything in your life, if you don't have clear defined goals, you get lost on your path to get there, with anything. So
100%. You need the end goal. You need that motivation. You need the bigger prize at the end of the, you know what I mean?
Because just running on a treadmill.
If not, you're just
never ending.
Exactly. Right. You're just running on a treadmill and no one wants to do that. So it's like, and I feel like we get each other so much because I've been an athlete since I was like 4 years old. Tony's been competing for the last couple of years. So it's like, we're like-minded in the sense of like motivation, dedication, routine, and discipline. So like when she gets like that, I try not to take her too seriously because I know she's going to snap out of it. I know she's going to push through anyway because that's her character and that's who she is. So I just laugh and I'm like, oh, you're grumpy for a minute. And I just,
that's exactly what it is.
I just let her go through it and have her day. And then I know she's going to come through it. And I know from fighting MMA for 5-6 years, cutting weight and going through all that. And then the fight's over and you look back at the journey and you look back at the process and you're like proud of yourself. And that path you just took, all that hard work and all the work you put in when you win is so fulfilling. And now you have a story, now you have a journey, now you have
fulfillment.
It's very fulfilling. And so I know she's building that right now. She's building that journey that she's going to look back on one day and be so proud of. So I feel like that's why we make this work, because we think alike.
Yeah. So I think to kind of take a left turn here. So I have a lot of friends who compete and some who have had to stop because of certain now negative aspects of the competing life. So like when you're dieting for so long from a hormonal standpoint, I know this is something you might have wanted to cover. For men, we all know that there's this, let's call it like unspoken rule of when it comes to drug enhancement and stuff like that. And that has its own negative aspect. But in terms of eating habits and hormonal issues that it may or may not cause, I know like my ex-girlfriend used to compete. And it was just like, when I say complete nightmare, like it was just from a mentality standpoint.
Yeah.
Some people can do it, some people can't.
Yeah, 100%.
And I say this with all due respect. You either have, when I say it, I mean you either have that like oomph to get you over the hump.
100%.
Some people's oomph is that support system.
Yeah.
And some people don't, some people do. And if you have it, fucking hold on to that, because like that shit doesn't come around very often. But I don't know if there's anything you want to touch from a female, because this is where I kind of step back and just like absorb, because I'm the guy. So you can kinda.
I guess when it comes to like the hormonal stuff and all that, like dieting, like granted, like this is like your second show and stuff like that, so it's not probably been an issue for you as much, but like from my perspective per se, like I've been competing since 2017, so that up to 2-3 shows a year sometimes, so for me, going through this constant cycle of like dieting, cutting weight, gaining the weight, cutting back down, like as a female, our hormones, we need fat in our diet. And I knew that like past a certain point, past a certain weight, and past a certain level of leanness, like my body, and like the leaner I got, the worse I felt sometimes mentally. Like, so, and that goes into this whole other like rabbit hole of like body dysmorphia and all that. Cause like, yeah, I'm peeled, yeah, I'm lean, and you have your coach telling you all these things, but then like you're sitting there and you're like, no, I need to be better. Like, so I get it. And it's like, so I don't know if you've come across that, and how you say you're grumpy, it's the hormones. It's your body literally telling you, hey, like we're cutting it real close right now. Like we're not doing something women are not supposed to be that lean, technically. This is a different sport. It's, perspectives are a little bit different, but women are not meant to be that lean. And it's the reason I took a break for a little bit, and probably a long while, to be honest. My body's just been fighting me these past few months. So like, that's something I kind of wanted to touch base on, like how if you don't plan on making it a career per se, what's like your recommendation? Like, how many shows a year do you think would be like a good amount? Or if you're just going to do a show, like do it and leave it, or keep going with it, like take everything into perspective, like keeping your body healthy and competing. What's your view on that?
It's a really loaded question, but I think that physically it affects you a lot more than you think. And I think mentally it affects you a lot more than you think too. Because yeah, your hormones, like it plays a huge factor in things, and it definitely like skews your mental thoughts sometimes. Then you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel like you should be better. So then you're upset that you don't look the way that, for how much output you put into it. And then that's like demotivating. And then you finally get to the show and maybe you don't feel as good as you wanted to, but you push through it. And then afterwards, now you have this whole other element of watching the scale go back up. Yeah. That messes with your brain too. So I think competing can be a really good thing for certain people. For me, I think it adds a lot of value to my life. And like I said, setting a goal for myself and seeing it through totally outweighs the negative, but the negative is definitely still there. And you have to have like a strong mental, like the body dysmorphia thing, I think is elevated times 100 when it comes to the sport. I mean, you're literally standing on stage and you're having somebody rate you on the way that you look.
People don't realize.
I was just gonna say, my question, because I can't relate, because I've never, like my sport, I was cutting weight to make a number on the scale because that was like the rules of the game. It had nothing to do with vanity. It had nothing to do with the way I looked. I wasn't being judged on that. It was just like, meet the number and you're done. So like, I feel like your world, how you look is directly tied to your success. And so it's like, they're intertwined and it could get so confusing, I feel like.
Yeah. It's such a subjective
You have to
sport.
really I mean, what woman wants to go stand on stage in a bikini and have a panel of people decide who looks best? Like it's actually crazy. I know.
Yeah, you guys apparently.
Me too.
All of you.
100%. But I think you have to you definitely have to be mentally in a good place to deal with the sport. And I think it can mentally affect you in a bad way for sure. You have to go into it but it's like anything you do. You have to go into it with like a good mindset. I just started journaling because I mentally was not in a good mindset. This prep has been challenging at its points, a lot of moving parts in my life. I think a lot of stress, so I didn't see the results, and this goes back down the negative kind of rabbit hole that we go down. But we all go through it to an extent. But I started journaling and just getting out there the positive energy and what I'm going to do tomorrow to be even better than I was today, and it put me right back into a really good mindset. And I think that's a really big thing for anybody that wants to compete, whether you're doing it your first show or you want to do it as a career. Go into it with a good mindset. Always keep a solid head on your shoulders. Know what it is. It's not, the world is not going to end. It's a show.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more, and you're going to look better next time. And because we're always progressing and we're always getting better. So that helps me to put it in perspective. I think your original question was something based off of if somebody's going to compete one time, how many shows should they do? I don't know everything about competing. I think that if you have the desire to want to try it, I think you should do it. Nothing bad is going to come out of it at the end of the day. If you go into it with a good mindset and you're listen, this is something I always wanted to do, then you should go for it. Like anything else in your life, if there's something you want to do, you should definitely try it out. It's not going to be for everybody. And you know what? If you do one show, that's what happened to me. I thought I was one and done. Mm-hmm. And that kind of I was oh, wait a minute. I really like this. Yeah. I want to keep going. I want to get better. I want to that gave me that. So I kept going with it. But I think if I would have been that was really fun, but it's really controlling on my life and it takes a lot of time and, a lot of dedication from everybody. Yeah. It affects everybody in your life.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been fine too. So I think it's like going into it with the right mindset. And before I competed, I watched so many girls on YouTube. I would just do cardio and I would watch all these girls compete. I would watch going through their preps. I would watch their bad days. I would watch their show day. I would watch them gain weight afterwards and how they felt about it. And like
knowledge is power. You
you have to like really know what you're getting into. Yeah. Like I started this process 6 years ago when we were training together before 5 years before I actually even competed. Yeah. Was how long I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm. So I think it comes down to, at least from what I'm taking from this conversation, is having the ability to discern, like going into something, whatever it may be, whether it's competing or showing up to work, whatever it is, with a healthy mindset. And I think this goes back to, and we discuss this every podcast, for some reason it comes up, is just doing your best to feed yourself positive thoughts. I come from a Greek and Cuban family, so like I'm hammered by family all the time. Like it's just constant love. It's overwhelming. But like I have a very healthy mindset. Like whatever I'm going into, I will complain almost every day about everything that I do.
Okay, that's
takes
why
a
we're
while,
here.
whatever it is. But
personal therapist.
I'm going into something with like, all right, like okay, we're gonna go with chrome labels on this, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. So again, whether it's competing or making products or running a social media page or kicking the shit out of people for a living, I think going into something with a healthy and positive mindset is something that everybody can kind of go home and take with them, because I think people don't realize I'm not into like karma and shit like that, or like but really what you feed your body.
So no sage?
No
crystals?
None. Thank you though.
All right.
Yeah. No like star animals, fish and shit. Like I'm good. Respectfully.
No asparagus?
No asparagus is not on whatever the fuck it's called. Whatever. But I think like I listen, I have friends too that, they have this, it's like, it's such a negative headset where like, if something goes wrong, it's always something else. It's always something else. And this is going on. Oh, my floors are broken, or my car this, or my relationship sucks.
Right.
Whatever you feed your mind at the end of the day is what's going to keep occurring. Mm-hmm. And if you do not feed your mind positive shit, what do you think is going to happen?
100%.
Absolutely. And we all know that person.
Yeah,
we
of
all
course.
know.
It's fucking depressing.
Well, we talk about this
We talk
all the
about
time.
this like, this is our daily conversation. I'm huge into manifestation, law of attraction. I firmly believe that what you put out is what you get back.
100%.
And we talk about that all the time because I've gone through like a series of bad relationships. So has Toni. And like when we met, it was just like so easy. And we were like, why is this so like easy and healthy?
It's not supposed to be hard.
It's not supposed to be hard. No. And when you put out good energy and you want good for other people and you work hard and you do your thing and you have good character, like that stuff's going to come back. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you keep a consistently positive mentality on things, even when like everyone eats shit sometimes, everyone goes through stuff. It's life. Yeah. But if you keep like a overall positive mentality on things, I feel like what you give is what you're going to get ultimately. 100%. And I feel like that's like you in one quote. Like you just put out such good energy and like good things come to you, but it's because you put out good energy.
Yeah.
You get out what you put in.
You do.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a tremendous place to end here, folks. Episode 10 of the Vision Cast. Thank you guys so much for coming by. It really does mean a lot to both of us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having
and
us.
Thanks for being on the team.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. All right. That's a wrap, guys. Peace out.
Push it to the limit. I can't go no more. Red light, no way. I'm coming back home. Long dirt.